For Angus Thomas and his wife, a holiday to Dubai has become a mission to help Nigerian women who are the victims of sex trafficking. The couple from Reading have paid for one woman's flight back home and they're now crowdfunding to help free others. The United Nations says thousands of women in Africa are being trafficked every year. Before the women leave Nigeria, many are made to undergo a juju or black magic ceremony in which they swear on pain of death to pay back their traffickers. We'll talk to Angus Thomas in a moment, but first, here's a clip from BBC South Today's James Ingham's report.
The trick to me, sometimes if I do not work, they take me to a friend's house and I will go there, they will beat me.
Just a month ago, this woman was a sex slave in Dubai.
So when I was going to Dubai, my boss never told me that I'm going to Dubai for prostitution.
Now she's safely home in Nigeria, thanks to this man who lives thousands of miles away. Did you think you would ever be free?
I never think, but I was just praying that one day let me be free. Before God sent him to my rescue. Yeah.
Well, let's talk live to Angus Thomas, who you saw in that film, and his daughter, Georgina Morante Galicia, who's now helping him to rescue more of the trafficked women. Talk us through this Dubai holiday then, when you first came across Amy and several other women.
So it was New Year's Eve, and I was having a coffee outside a hotel, and there were lots of people dressed up in their finery going off to New Year's Eve parties. And I left the hotel to go to the supermarket just to get a bar of chocolate. And I just happened to say to a group of girls outside the hotel, "You look fantastic tonight," walked on my way, and one of them chased after me. And we got talking, and I asked her if she was, she propositioned me, and I asked her if she was here of her own volition, and it turned out she wasn't. And I talked about, I said to her, do you want to go home? And she said yes. So I said, well, if you're still keen tomorrow morning, text me, and we can meet and make a plan. So I met her the next day, photographed her passport and her visa. But what struck me was the ambivalence about going home, because she didn't grasp me and say, yes, please get me home. She was terrified about what would happen to her when she got back home. She was terrified about the juju spirits and her family being damned forever. It was a very difficult situation.
What do you know of what happens in that juju ceremony, which effectively threatens them with death?
Well, interesting enough, it's like a pair of spiritual handcuffs, and so they do this initiation with menstrual blood, with hair, pubic hair, head hair, and there's a lot of chanting involved. But what's been interesting as I've got further into this subject, also the Christian pastors are very much involved in this as well. And the first girl is very, very Christian. She studied religious study till she was 18. She goes to church 4 times a week, and her pastor basically stood in the way of her going to identify her traffickers. So.
Right. Georgina, what do you think of what your dad's doing and why you're now involved?
So I think it's quite phenomenal, to be honest. I think, we see people, or we hear of people every day going through immense hardships, and it gets so overwhelming because there's just so much bad going on in the world. And so it's, I was very proud of him to be doing what he's doing. And it just really struck a chord with me. I think being a woman, women's issues are a huge, huge thing for me. And
you're the similar age to some of the women
really similar age
who
to
have
her.
been trafficked, who you saw outside this hotel in Dubai.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been to Dubai. I know lots of people go on holiday there, but you can imagine that those women would have been spotted by lots of British tourists. And actually, you walk on by, don't you?
You do.
Why did you then end up paying for this woman to fly back home to Nigeria?
Well, just like in your last article, life turns on the smallest of incidents, and from there a blossoming career or friendship can grow. And I believe the moment for me was when she touched my arm. I had a t-shirt on, and she held my arm, and it was a lifeless, hopeless, clammy, cold, even though it was hot, touch. And there was no life, there was no energy in her touch. And I just knew that it was genuine there and then. But I didn't understand why she wasn't enthusiastic to go home.
Right.
So.
I mean, these women are being trafficked, sold for money, effectively, to people who want to sleep with them in Dubai, holiday makers. They are sex slaves, effectively, forced into
100%.
prostitution. Are the authorities in Dubai interested in helping them?
Well, when we got home, I did contact the Dubai police helpline, and it was out of order. I emailed 3 organisations in Dubai and I didn't hear anything. So eventually I discovered an organisation in Nigeria called NAPTIP, and John Ronald, who's the case officer, has been absolutely superb in guiding us through this process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're great unseen, but the big scandal as a sort of subtext to all of this is that a lot of the girls are working in clubs that are owned by big hotel chains. I won't name any of them, but you know, this is also a process that's being endorsed by Western quoted companies. So. But these girls, you know, one of the reasons we're doing this is we set up a GoFundMe campaign, which you can find at sendthemhome.co.uk, and we've got 3 aims for that campaign, which is to rescue the other girls that we know are there, and we know of between 16 and 20 other girls. The second thing is to reintegrate them when they get home, because they need help reintegrating and going through the process with NAPTIP. And then we want to also educate, because this is the biggest part, is educating not only the girls, but their parents as well.
Yeah.
Because this problem is not just with the 2 girls that we had. They were basically introduced to women who knew women, interestingly enough. They were offered sales jobs in Dubai, and these girls live in remote areas of Edo State. And sometimes the girls, obviously, they've got nothing, they've got no income, they've got no jobs, they've got no prospects as far as they're concerned, so this is a very lucrative thing for them to do. But the problem is also the parents are trafficking them, because the parents want the best for their daughters, they want money for themselves, and their motives are tend to vary, but it's greed can be one thing,
Right.
sending money home to the families is another. The traffickers tell the girls that they owe them money when they get there for the tickets. But what actually happens is that the traffickers are stealing credit cards. They're putting all their costs on somebody else's credit card. When the girls arrive, they're told they owe them £10,000.
Wow.
If you translate that, that's effectively being raped 200 times to buy your freedom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So.
Briefly, finally, Georgina, is there any danger to you and your dad as you help these women? Do you think about the possibility of reprisals from these smuggling gangs?
I'm sure there is, but I just think the danger that these women are in, the daily raping, if they don't earn enough money, they have chili powder rubbed into their vaginas. I honestly cannot fathom what these women go
That
through.
seriously happens?
Oh, it seriously happens, and it happened to the first woman that we got home. That was happening to her after Dad had met her and before he saw her again, which is just why it's so important. We just urge anyone who's watching right now, visit sendthemhome.co.uk and just, if anything you can, whether it just replace your morning cup of coffee, just send us a couple of quid, as much money as we can get in. We know these women, we know their names, and we really just want to get them safe for their families, reintegrate them to society, and then educate more women and just really stop this happening.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme, Georgina and Angus. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
you.